Politics in the metropolitan region and two unusual guests. Now, I could tell you who they are. Instead, I'll just say, stay tuned. The Point starts right now. You know, Christine Todd Whitman is the former Republican governor of New Jersey who once ran the Environmental Protection Agency. Now she's co-chair of the Forward Party, which may say a lot about the political health of the country. So here's the question: why do we need a third party?
We need a third party because it's clear that the duopoly we have now is not responding to the people's needs, and that's why people are so frustrated and angry. And if you watch what's happening to the parties, they're actually losing support, that more and more people are becoming independents or unaffiliated because they're saying neither of you are working for me. And the real problem is, you know, Marcia, we have 50 some odd thousand plus, 500,000 plus elective offices around the country. And in any given year, 70% of those, the voters have no choice. There's only one person running. And of those, there are 5 to 10% of those seats are never filled. And that's just wrong. Every voter should have a choice. They should have at least two people for whom to vote. And when we see what's happening now with the two parties that are just, what's right now, actually what's happening is a fascinating example to me of why it's so necessary to have a third party in there. You have the state of Texas saying it's going to redistrict and provide more seats to make it better for Republicans. Now you have California saying, well, or New York saying, we might do that too, to make it better for Democrats. Nobody's saying, how about making it better for the people? How about giving the people the kind of diversity in representation that they want?
You know, one of the things that's troubled me as I look at people who vote is the low turnout just about everywhere. And is that because people are disaffected, or that they don't have a choice, or both?
It's a combination, and actually what got us here is that very factor. What happens is we got lazy. We got lazy about democracy. We kind of assumed it's always going to be there. I don't have to bother. If it's a rainy day, I don't want to go vote, and you know, I'm not going to take away from my family my day off if you have a Tuesday off. But what we did was we had an average voter turnout in primaries of 10%. So those were the most partisan. Those were the most that tended to be on the extremes. Then you got to the general election. If Congress was the top of the ticket, 35% voter turnout was considered good because people were saying, don't like those choices, pox on both your houses, not going to bother to vote. Same thing with the presidential. And we got to turn that around.
So is that why we have such dysfunction in Washington?
Yes, absolutely. Because everything now, as I said, when you have 70% of the seats are absolutely locked in, there are 34 states, maybe 35 states that are one-party states. And I'm sorry, whether it's a Republican state or a Democratic state, one-party rule, as it were, is not healthy for anybody. You need competition. You need to have that exchange of ideas that can really start to solve problems. And in Washington today, and happening more and more around the country, is that every issue is looked at through the partisan political prism. You know, what's going to get me another vote in my district? What's going to get me another member in the House or the Senate? And not how do we solve this problem.
But is it also the fact that what's happening is that you're seeing it through the prism of the two extremes, as opposed to many voters who are more in the middle?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why people are so frustrated, because the majority of American people are not in the extremes. They're in the middle. And that's what Forward does. Forward is saying, we're a party. We're different than any other kind of party because we're building a party from the ground up. And what we're saying, we're not having a set of principles that say you have to believe in abortion, pro or anti-abortion. That's what you have to be. That's what you have to talk about. What we're saying, our candidates, and we have 53 now who are serving in office that are Forward candidates or Forward affiliated, where we're not fully on the ballot. We will support Republicans, Democrats, or Independents as long as they sign our pledge. And I'm almost embarrassed to say we have to have this as a pledge. It's, I agree to hold the rule of law, respect the Constitution, work with anyone to solve problems, create a safe space to discuss controversial issues, and work to ensure that anyone who has the legal right to vote gets to vote. And those are based on the principles of decency, democracy, and diversity. And it should be up to the the office holder to say, what do my constituents want? What do I believe in? Not what a party in Washington tells me I have to talk about.
But it also seems very nonpartisan.
It is, basically. It's a place for people who want to have elected representatives who will answer to them, who are not beholden to anybody else. And we have 23 candidates across the elections this year that we'll be working with and endorsing and helping them. And everything from, we have a U.S. Senator from Utah who's a Forward affiliate. We have a Democratic, Republican forwardist. We have a Democrat in the House from North Carolina. But then we have a Moms for Liberty. We have a woman who defeated a Moms for Liberty candidate in the school board elections in North Carolina. That, to me, is really important, is because those local offices, first of all, they're building the farm team for the future, but more importantly, they're the ones that make the decisions that most immediately impact you, the mayors, the council members, the state legislators, the governors. That's where we need to focus.
So are you meeting resistance on the part of states controlled by Democrats or Republicans to get your Forward Party on the ballot?
Oh, yes. I mean, they make it extremely difficult for third parties, and they've done that all along. And every state is different, but they'll change the rules in the middle of a game on how many, for instance, if it's a matter of signatures, or how many signatures you have to get. All of a sudden, they'll say it's 15,000, then it's 30,000 when you've gotten the 15. I mean, they will do whatever they can to make it difficult, but again, that's why right now we're kind of below the radar, which is not an altogether bad thing, because people think, oh, you know, so you've got 53 candidates, big deal, people serving in office. Well, just wait. When the public starts to really understand this is an opportunity for them to be heard and to have their voices, their votes count, and things like redistricting with what's going on, that happens, they're seeing now, that happens at the state level. And you don't have to get everybody, which is the nice thing. You just have to get a fulcrum. What you need is just that few. You need maybe 5 or 10 in an assembly, a state assembly, or 4 or 5 in the Senate to make a difference. They're the ones who can start to really influence policy and how it's determined. When things are that close, they can make a real difference.
So you are the former Republican governor in New Jersey, but you are endorsing in this year's gubernatorial race a Democrat.
I am.
What's with that?
Well, I just think, first of all, Jack Ciattarelli has changed so much from the person that I knew before. He would never be this all in on Trump. And he has said there's nothing with which he would disagree with what the president's done. And I'm sorry, there are a lot of things with which I would disagree. We're not a party, we're not a state of people who hate each other. I mean, we're built on diversity. That I had as a motto when I was governor, many faces, one family. That's who we are, and we should celebrate that, and clearly the president does not. I think Mikey Sherrill, she is strong. She has the background. She's been a prosecutor. She's been in the military. She's been in Congress. She's worked across the aisle. She's had to make tough decisions, and she's been able to do it, and she's willing to work with others. And she has been someone who, in Congress, has really worked to get bills through, get bipartisan legislation enacted. And that's what we need. We need somebody, you got to be tough in New Jersey, and she's tough.
But you know, in New Jersey, there's been this sort of thing where, like, if there's been a 2-term governor from one party, the next time, for some reason, New Jersey goes the other way. Since we do have a Democratic governor, do you think that Mikey Sherrill has an uphill battle?
Well, she has a battle. She knows it. But don't forget, when I ran, nobody had defeated an incumbent governor in a general election since 1947. So it can happen.
But do you think that she's going to have to change her policies a little bit, go more to the middle in order to get elected?
No, because she's been in the middle. I mean, she's not an extreme, and that's what I like about her. She has never taken those extreme stands. So she's the kind of person that will be able to work across the aisle, will be able to get things done with the legislature.
Okay, well, we're going to have to leave it right there for now, but we'll be right back. Bradley Tusk wears a lot of hats: political strategist, venture capitalist, philanthropist. He likes to push the edge of the envelope, which is why we're going to talk to you now, because one of the things you'd like to do is see mobile voting.
Yes.
People who could actually cast votes on their phone. They'd never have to leave the house.
Right. Think about it. We do our banking on our phone. We do our health care on our phone. We do our love lives on our phone. But then all of a sudden, this thing that is really integral to how democracy works, we're not allowed to do it. And the problem is, as a result, most of us just don't vote at all. So, you know, city council primary turnout's like 7% in New York City. And so you could win a council seat with 5,000 to 6,000 votes.
I got news for you.
In a city of 8.5 million people.
I have actually studied that.
Yeah.
There are people who have won with 345 votes.
There you go, right.
I mean, in the Asian empowerment zone, they won with 1,100 votes.
Right.
It's terrifying.
So, which is in no way representative of the public as a whole.
170,000 people are in each council-managed district.
Right.
And when you get 11,000, even 6,000 votes.
It's tiny. Well, I mean, even Mondani, who won by a decent margin, he got 432,000 votes, which is 5% of New York City's population, right? And so, and by the way, this isn't just New York City. This is true all over the country, because gerrymandering effectively decides who's going to win the general election. So it's really about the primary. Primary turnout's usually around 10%. And who are those voters? The furthest right, the furthest left. Special interests know how to move money and votes in low turnout elections. And so they dictate not only who wins office, but then what happens once they're in office.
But see, how does mobile voting change the fact that the extremes tend to vote in primaries?
It makes it a lot easier for everyone else to vote, to then diffuse the power of the extremes. So in a world of 10% turnout, which is what we have today, the extremes dominate completely.
Totally.
But let's say that you could now vote on your phone, and I can walk you through how we do it. Then I think a lot of people that you and I know who, are they going to not take their kid to school on a Tuesday to vote? No. Are they going to be late to work to vote? No. But while they're waiting for their coffee, could they press a few buttons on their phone? Yes. And if we just went from, say, 7 to 21, so still pretty abysmal, by the way, but it still triples it, changes the composition of the electorate. And if you assume that every politician makes every decision just based on winning the next election, which has been my experience in politics, then they're going to respond to whatever they need to for who's going to vote in their next primary. And so when it's 7 in New York City, it's the crazy left. When it's 21, it starts to shift towards the middle.
But here's the $64,000 question.
Yeah.
How do you prevent fraud?
Yeah.
And how do you prevent, for example, every immigrant, every delivery person has a cell phone.
Yeah.
So how do you prevent people who are not legitimate voters from voting?
Sure. So I'll walk you through the system that we've built. And to be clear, one, it's not meant to replace any form of voting. So, you know,
can still vote at the polls.
Yeah, all that. And it's also totally philanthropic. So I've paid for all of this out of my foundation. None of this is a business thing at all. You go on the App Store. You would download the New York City Board of Elections app. The first thing they would say is, Marsha really a registered voter here in New York City? You put in your info, fine. Next question, and this really answers what you just asked, is Marsha really Marsha? So we do two things. One is called multi-factor authentication. So that means that, like, you know, if you forget your Amazon password, they send you a code and you put it in. Same thing. Then we do biometric screening. So like Clear at the airport, scanning your face, has to match up against your driver's license. Then at that point, all of these things have shown, okay, this is really Marsha Kramer. Ballot comes up on your screen. Ballot is super simple. The idea is to make it easy. Whenever you're ready to vote, you hit submit, and 3 things happen. Your ballot's encrypted, your ballot's anonymized, and you get a tracking code like if it were a FedEx package. Goes back to the Board of Elections. They air gap it, which means they take it totally offline, and once it's no longer connected to the internet, then they decrypt your ballot. A paper copy of your ballot gets printed out. That gets mixed in with all the other ballots. You can see from the tracking code that your ballot was received, tabulated, printed, and so on. And the underlying code itself is open source, which means anyone can audit it, anyone can verify it. It's totally transparent.
But yet, you know, when there is a vote, there's always the recount where the Republicans and the Democrats and independents, if there are, show up and say, I challenge that vote.
Yep.
How are you going to be able to challenge the legality of some of these votes? And what if people say, well, look, you know, as you know, when you go to the polls, there are affidavit ballots and absentee ballots. Yep. So an affidavit ballot, as you know, is somebody who may not be in that polling place or whatever. So do you eliminate the problem of affidavit ballots?
Yes, for the people who choose to use mobile voting, yes. I think you do a few things. One is, you know, to tabulate the votes a lot more accurately and a lot more quickly. Two, you're able to eliminate issues like affidavit ballots. If you think about absentee ballots, so my daughter is 19. And last year was her first year in college, and she had turned 18 right before school. And then she sends me a text saying, like, hey, how do I vote? She was excited. And I sent her a link to get an absentee ballot from the New York City Board of Elections. This is a kid who thinks email is antiquated. Like, I remember when we moved her into her dorm, like, mailbox, mail room never even came up once. And so is she going to do that? Not really. But are there a lot of people, whether it's young people or people with disabilities, deployed military, people who are literally risking their lives to protect our right to vote? They mail in their ballot from Kandahar. It shows up December 3rd. It goes in the trash. Or imagine you're blind. Not only is it an even much bigger pain to go, you have to hope that they then actually mark the ballot the way that you asked them to, and you don't know because you're blind. And so there are so many communities that would benefit from this. But overall, the main thing is, and I think what I want, and my guess is you do too, is I don't like things being controlled by the extremes on either side. And for as long as they are the only ones who participate in primaries, that's what's going to happen. But if we make voting a lot easier, that changes it.
So how do you feel about the idea of open primaries?
I support them. I think it would be great. To me, in a world where anyone could vote in any primary, and you could do it on your phone, you would have a lot more turnout, and you'd have to also be able to get more people focused on each primary, which would, and Governor Whitman was talking about this a little bit before I came on, reshape the way that people campaign.
She also talked about fusion voting.
Yes.
Is that a good idea?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's a good idea. I support what she and Andrew Yang are doing with the Forward Party overall. So, but to me, ultimately, whether it's fusion or open primaries or ranked choice or anything else, if you don't go to the people, nothing's really going to change, right? You have to meet the people where they are, and that's on their phones.
So do you need to have ranked choice voting in the general election as well as in the primary?
No, I don't. I mean, we don't have that.
Should we?
Should we? The question really is, would it get us potentially a different outcome in this upcoming race?
In this race?
Probably not, is
Why?
my view. Because I actually think Mondani is going to win by a pretty healthy margin, and I don't think it'll matter.
You don't think that Cuomo, Adams, and Slee will have a chance?
No, I don't.
Why not?
A few reasons. One, if there was just one of them and not three of them.
Should one of them drop out?
Yes, two of them should drop out.
Who should drop out?
The polling would say Sliwa and Adams should drop out because Cuomo is in second. But there was a poll that came out the other day. He was still down by like 30 to Mondani. It's not really that close. But ultimately, you would have to have the other two drop out. And then at that point, maybe you get to a point where it becomes a 50-50 race. But one thing that I think the business community, and which I'm part of in New York, but has gotten wrong, is this notion that with enough money you can fix anything. That's not really true. Cuomo spent over $20 million on TV
but he ran
ads.
A terrible campaign.
And they were terrible, right. So I think that fundamentally, you also still need a candidate that people really want. And when you look at each of their numbers, the voters don't really want Andrew Cuomo to come back. They don't want Eric Adams to come back. Curtis Lee, they don't consider sort of a major entity one way or the other. And so if we could get, and look, I'm sure this happens to you, it happens to me all the time, people who are interested in running for office, who are smart, successful people who aren't necessarily career politicians, will come to me because I was, Mike Bloomberg's campaign manager, and will say, okay, what do I need to do? And then when you explain how the primary electorate works and who it is, they're just like, forget it. But if they knew that you could triple the number of people participating, then all of a sudden we will get better people running who are more appealing, more centrist, and can get things done.
And on that note, we're going to have to leave it right there for now. But our conversations continue right after the show on our streaming channel, CBS News New York. Thank you for joining me. President Trump has embarked on a frenetic pace in his first 7 months in office. Some New Yorkers are fans, and some are not. They're weighing in on your point. We're 6 months into the Trump administration. How do you think he's doing?
I think he's doing a great job.
He's doing okay.
Not particularly well.
It's a catastrophe.
All right-ish. I don't know. Could be better.
He sucks.
What?
Not very good.
As expected.
I think it's chaos.
I think he's a crazy man. So I don't know. I think he's made things more volatile.
Fantastic. There's nobody like him. Never will be again.
I don't love him, He's had some hits, more than I thought he would.
Oh, terrible. Horrible.
Why?
Well, look at immigration, crime, look at the policies internationally. Everything is going sour. I don't think anything is getting any better.
Depends if you're talking about my country. I'm from Ukraine. Sorry. I think he could have done a better job just to support my people.
Not great.
Why?
Because he's rolling back basically all the protections against queer people and immigrants that we had before.
So what has he done well?
Leading, directing things.
Getting involved in international affairs and making them realize that we're strong in America.
He's good with the military.
I liked what he did, giving a chance for the new Syrian government.
I think he's done everything well. I think he's raised our flag.
He made the economy grow.
They passed one thing on the tax reform that I like, the rest of it I don't.
He's good on everything. I can't put my finger on one thing.
Nothing, just except to put us on the edge, it seems, about everything.
The immigration problem, he's done pretty well.
What does he need to work on?
Being less crazy.
His hair.
He needs to work on his verbal skills.
Everything.
Like? What would you like to see him with?
Outside of all politics, maybe be a better human.
I don't know, not destroying human rights, not destroying human dignity, not destroying the Constitution.
What would you like to see accomplished by the end of his first year in office?
Stability, economic hope, not just craziness with tariffs.
You know, I feel like I'm like a lot of Americans when I say, like, I want grocery prices to be lower.
I want the middle class people to be recognized.
Ukraine and Gaza, just stop the bloodshed, period.
I like to see the tariff issues resolved.
He needs to provide jobs, he needs to find education, and make everyone unite, not dumb us down.
I would like him to be a little bit more sympathetic for people who don't have money and have to eat.
I get it.
You know, when you're rich, you don't have to worry about those things.
I would like to be able to make my money go a little further right now. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm still waiting on that.